We'll call this regular committee of the whole meeting to order on Tuesday, February 11th, 2020 at 7:17 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have anyone that would like to speak under public participation? Okay, moving down, we have the request by Logan County Board for a letter of support from the Lincoln City Council in favor of the restoration referendum for the 1905 historic Logan County Courthouse Dome.
Put that on the regular agenda.
Yeah.
Consent agenda.
It's a resolution.
Regular agenda.
Tracy?
Yeah, I would agree. Would Cam or Emily like to, or anybody from the county like to come up and just give us your summary? I don't want to speak on your behalf here.
I'm sure most of you know, this is our third time now asking for.
Pull the mic down. Into the mic.
This is our third time now. This time, though, we're running it as a facilities tax and not a safeties tax, so it will not apply to the jail, just the courthouse alone. There'll be a 20-year sunset clause on it, and it's a half a cent on the dollar. So for every $100 you spend, it'd be 50 cents. And it's only on tangible property like paper goods, dog food, things like that. No food or medicine.
Kevin?
I'd also like to clear up, it has absolutely nothing, and I repeat, nothing to do with your property tax. That's a big question out there. This is a sales tax referendum, so it would only affect you if you go into a store or establishment and spend money on tangible items, as Emily said. So this has nothing to do with your sales tax, sewer tax, or whatever other tax you're thinking of. This or property tax, I mean. This is a sales tax referendum, which the best part about that is every person traveling through this county that spends money in an establishment is also helping restore our courthouse. That would mean every race night, the big events that come to town, the barbecue and other events. Every time someone travels through this town, or Beck's Travel Plaza, or the one they're building in Atlanta or whatever, that money will go toward this courthouse. So it's the best and easiest way to spread that out. And as Emily said, it has a 20-year sunset clause. So at the end of 20 years, it reverts back to what it was.
Mr. Keller?
Thank you, Mayor. So anybody, hopefully, who's been paying attention to this particular issue, which is on the referendum, hopefully will be aware of the need for this and how much in disrepair the courthouse roof is. And if it's not taken care of, it will be even worse. But Emily, could you kind of share what the revenue estimates are, the projections from this particular sales tax referendum would be, and then how that would work when it comes to matching funds that you hope to get?
Right now, I think we project around $900,000 that it would bring in every year. We have applied for like capital grants through Brady, Butler, even the governor's office. But right now, none of those funds have been allotted to any of those offices. So we're kind of just hoping, and waiting. I mean, but, so every little bit will help. But definitely without, if there'd be any left over after we'd fix the entire thing, then that would be for preventative maintenance. So, I mean, it can only be used on the courthouse and nothing else whatsoever in the county. So.
On that topic, too, there was an application that is no surprise that I submitted to HGTV. It's called Hometown Makeover on this topic. I want to make sure everybody knows HGTV was drawn to Lincoln because of the video, but they are not at this time funding anything related to the courthouse. So it's very important that everybody knows that the votes are needed to get this to be repaired or restored. So just wanted to clarify that as well. Are there other comments? Yep, Tracy and then Beth.
Emily, if somebody were to reach out to you or one of the board members, obviously within the confines of what's safe over there, would you guys be willing to take them through and show them the building? Obviously, there's places they can't go.
Right. We have discussed giving tours, so I think they could, we'd try to see what we could do, we'd work it out with the sheriff, but, I mean, as far as group tours and whatnot, I mean, I don't really think that's really an option, but, I mean, if we...
Like one-offs.
Yeah, we'll see what we could do, for sure.
Okay.
people do need to see the extent of the damage, because it's from top to bottom.
I just want to ask a question. I'd heard this years before, and I don't know if it's, still true or not, but I'd heard that our courthouse, our third floor courtroom is either the second or third largest in the whole state of Illinois. Is that correct? You can say that too. I mean, you need to say that.
I'm
That's
sure Mr.
important.
Keller knows more than I do about that.
Those are the original chairs from 1905 also. There's a lot of things in that courthouse that is original to the 1905 construction of that building. And unless Mr. Walters changes, the courthouse dome would be put back into its original copper form, which there's very few photographs that show that, because the painted coating that's on there now was applied in 1972. The steel structure and stuff of that building is in remarkably good shape. It's just the copper has outlived its life and needs to be replaced. And then there's other upgrades to that building. As everybody knows, in 1905, we didn't have computers or anything else, so there's cabling that needs to be done, electrical, HVAC, and those kind of things that all need to bring this up. There is no reason not to think that once this building is restored, that it won't last for decades after that. It is on the National Historic Preservation List. There was monies trying to be had for that, and when we undertook the removal of the stained glass, at the time I was on the county board, I reached out to Washington, D.C. to find somebody who specialized in that. Those people knew exactly what building I was talking about. They got me to a guy that already knew about the building. This is the second largest Oculus interior dome in the nation. So it does have historic value to this building, and it is a lot of eyes are looking at it. Just unfortunately with our economy, there's not the monies out there to put into it. But the more we work on it, those eyes may open up, and we may get some grants out there to help with this preservation.
Rick?
Speaker, microphone.
I noticed we have a building down here, Serendipity, that has restoration grants. I believe Pat Doolin was able to secure those. Why is someone that prominent in our city not stepping forward to help this project get historic grants? May want to ask him.
Okay, yeah, doesn't hurt to ask.
Are there any other discussion? Let's just verify it's going to be placed on the regular
Regular agenda.
Thank you.
resolution.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right, then we have the discussion of a potential grant of the Department of Justice Cops Hiring Program to fund 75% of a police officer for the purposes of investigating violent crimes. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. So this grant has come out. It's due March 11th. So I started my people on trying to get this grant work put together. But the big question is, do we have the funds in our budget to help fund the 25% that's going to be necessary for the city to fund? This is essentially a 4-year grant. They give us 3 years of 75% of salary and fringe benefits of a 1-year police officer. So it's free money. I don't think I see a downside to this, other than, again, we have to come up with the 25% that the city has to come up with. Now, with the cannabis tax that the state is getting, 8% of those revenues that are deposited in the Illinois state tax revenues is supposed to go back to be distributed against the local governments throughout the state. So that is supposed to be used, and it comes to the LGDF.
Government distribution.
Thank you. Yeah, you're the expert there. So that money is supposed to come back to the city. However, it's supposed to be used for criminal justice training, et cetera, for those type of crimes anyway. And this is this hiring program is for violent crimes. So it would be somebody that we put in our investigations to help with those investigations anyway. And hopefully with the teaching and education that we need to start doing in regards to the issues we're having with the drunk crimes in our community. So this is something I want to bring it up to you guys, see what you guys' feelings is, if we want to go ahead and pursue this grant or if we just want to trash can it right now.
Mr. Parrott?
Let's say the grant was awarded. How long is the grant for? Did you?
The grant is for 4 years. It pays for 3 years, though, of 75%. So the last year, essentially, we have to keep our staffing where it is for 4 years. That last year, the city has to make sure they pay for the full percent or 100% of it. But that 3 years, they pay for 75% of that salary and fringe benefits.
So then, let's say after 4 years, then what?
Then, if for some reason the city can't afford it or et cetera, then that position can be lost through attrition or whatever else. So.
Mr. Keller?
Thank you, Mayor. What would the 25% approximately be that the city would have to own up for?
So you're looking at, I think, I would say about 75,000 with a salary and fringe benefits, so 25% of that. So
Okay.
Mr. Kondo?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, that you talked about that distribution from the 8% tax. Is that distributed to the localities, to the municipalities or the counties based on population? Or
yeah, I believe that's the same way that they do the tax, the income tax distribution. It's kind of the same.
Motor fuel tax.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Based on what I've read on IML. So
Further discussion or questions? Jeff?
I'll just say, I think we should at least go for it. It doesn't mean we're going to get the grant, but at least
Yeah.
apply. And so I'll say place it on the agenda.
Kevin?
So would this be a new hire officer or just training a existing officer?
this would be an addition too. So we'd be hiring another officer. Yes.
Okay.
So we'll place this on the regular agenda?
Yes.
Tracy?
So what's that do from a vehicle perspective also?
Yeah, we'll have to figure out how to
Another vehicle?
roll another vehicle out. Yeah.
One of the old vehicles.
Well, right now we don't have enough vehicles now the way it is, so we got two guys sharing one vehicle. So we'll make it work.
Jeff?
Because of a recent accident too, right? There.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Anything further? Okay, regular agenda. City of Lincoln's Budget Amendment Resolution Number 1 for City Fiscal Year 2019-2020. Mr. Kondo?
Thank you, Mayor. You all received copies of this budget amendment. And it's, pretty straightforward, I think, the way it is. What we've done in order to increase these expenditures, or in order to be able to increase them, we've have received some additional revenue that we did not anticipate at the time of the budget. First one there, police, this is insurance reimbursement, speaking of the smash up that somebody just referred to. So we have received reimbursement there, and we've added that to the, what was 40,000 in the police reimbursement line. We've added that. If you look at the next section, it's that at $2,698.09. There's also a grant that we did not know we were going to receive, or we didn't know the amount. This Department of Justice at BVP is Bulletproof Vest Partnership, is what BVP is. 3,100, isn't that correct? Yeah. Thank you. $3,103.58. So we've increased that revenue line and the expenditure line accordingly to accommodate that. In addition, there's a $500 grant, another $500 grant, and I believe was from another, I don't recall which source that was from, to tell you the truth, but there is an additional grant there. We've included that, and then there's additional expenditures for maintenance and equipment for the fire department and vehicles for the police department that reflect that. There's that $8,700 donation to the fire department. I think Chief Danofsky talked about that some time back, and so we've included that and the expenditure that correlates to that. In addition, the Streets and Alley Department, $2,000. This just shifting it from where we didn't need it in supplies to general supplies to Arbor Day supplies. And then the public safety building, we had some money there from that bond referendum that we're able to use for expenses and primarily in equipping the squad cars with cameras. And then finally, the last thing is just something that was not in the original budget. It's a result of the MFT audit conducted by the Illinois Department of Transportation. They went back and audited, 10 years, didn't they? Yeah. They hadn't been here in a while, and they finally got here. And as a result of that, they audit resulted in, they had told us we needed to transfer money from the general fund to motor fuel tax that had been spent on things that were appropriate, but that were not things that could be paid for out of motor fuel tax. So we've had to, and this is accumulated over, in this case, this is 14 through 18. So it's 5 years accumulation of that we have. And that transfer has been completed by the city clerk's office. And that's not an expenditure, that's a transfer within city funds.
Questions or discussion?
Please, on the agenda.
Regular agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Place on the regular agenda. We have the request permit, the Lincoln Park District, in conjunction with the Pigs and Swigs event to use city streets for its 5K run, which will be June 6th, 2020. You all have a map there, and certificate of insurance has been provided. Kevin?
Place this on the agenda. I won't be here next week to vote on it, but this is an exciting event. I believe our mayor runs in it, and it does bring in. We had somebody from Florida last year, I think, running in it.
People from
So
different areas.
there is some interest in this event, so I think it's a good thing for the city.
Peggy?
The treasurer noticed before the meeting that there's no time on this request, what time the race is. So I will find that out, and so it'll show on the voting thing. I didn't want to like 9 o'clock or something. It's early. Yeah. So we'll show that.
Yeah, because it gets warm that day.
Right. All right, so we'll place that on the agenda.
Consent.
Next is a request permit, the VFW Post 1756, to utilize Postville Park for outdoor vendor booth spaces for the 2020 Route 66 garage sales, June 12th, 13th, and 14th. They have provided the insurance as well.
Consent.
Also on the consent agenda. Proposed Comcast franchise agreement. Beth?
Yes, we have the agreement. I think we've met, 4 or 5 times with them, and they've come in from one of the managers from Chicago and the other lady from Springfield, and 2 aldermen have been in there. And anyway, I think we've moved closer. I don't know if one of you aldermen want to talk. Alderman Welch, do you want to talk about it? I think
Sure.
it's a good.
I'll share the bullet points from our last meeting. What they had started out, I believe, with a 10-year agreement that they had requested. We have got them to agree to a 4-year agreement. There will be no HD, SD only, and that is for our local feed for Channel 5. It doesn't have anything to do with your other channels. The city will invest in some new camera equipment at our cost. They will help us from a technical perspective getting that going, but Chief Adams has already looked into some of that. The 3-way agreement between the college, the city, and Comcast is no longer required. We have received contact information. There was a lot of concerns about downed lines and what happens in inclement weather and things of that nature. And they have provided their private emergency contact numbers to the city. They're not for public knowledge. They're for the city to get a quick response or emergency to make those calls as well. And we talked about the fact that they didn't have a local drop location anymore where there was people in a building, a brick and mortar. We worked through that. We talked about it, but their model doesn't support that. So, but what they have provided is UPS drop box locations. There's one at CVS. There's one at the Century Building downtown. The CVS is probably a little bit more convenient. The Century Building one's tucked back in the lobby on McLean Street. If you want to make Comcast payments, you can do that at IGA, CVS, or either of the Casey's in town. And obviously you can make that online as well. So the UPS drop box, going back to that, if you have to exchange equipment, return it, whatever, you call them, they'll send you a box, postage paid, you put it in the box, you take it back to the drop location. So I think we worked on this agreement through quite a bit of stuff when we started. It was a pretty big list, and I think we're in a really good position. Beth, did you want to talk about the 3-year, there's a 3-year period, and so it's likely in a year we'll be talking to them again, that?
Right, yes, according to, there's some kind of special communications entity, I can't think of what it's called, federal, maybe it's Federal Communications, I don't know, but anyway, they require that you give notice, and it has to be 3 years. Is it a FCC? Okay. And so, we just get started, and we have to turn around, and they'll give us notice, so it's just kind of redundant, and it's not real feasible to do that, but, so we've got them down to a 4-year. I felt pretty good about it, but I don't know how you do.
Mr. Parrott.
So after, in a year 4, do we still have to give them 3-year notice that we're not going to continue? So in essence, it's still a 7-year? I mean, after year 1, what's the 3-year notice for?
So the federal law requires that because we have a franchise agreement, this is my understanding, that they have to provide a notice to the municipality that they wish to enter into another negotiation period. They have to do that within 3 years of the contract ending. This was a sticking point for us because we actually tried to get a 3-year. And they're like, as soon as we sign it, we'll be right back there talking about it again. So we went with a 4-year that gives a 1-year period. Just because they have to give us notice within 3 years doesn't mean we're going to spend 3 years talking to them. They'll probably come to us within a year or 2 out, and we'll have the same discussion. And we either renew or we don't. And I think it's important, again, this has come up multiple times. They were very clear in the beginning that this is a non-exclusive agreement. So other companies can come to town and operate the same services that they provide. It's up to them whether they do or not.
Any further discussion?
You'd like to place it on the agenda?
Do we have everyone okay with that?
I think so.
Regular agenda?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, we'll place it on the regular agenda. Moving down, then we have the ordinance amending city codes, section 1-20-7, city administrator's duties and responsibilities.
Place on the agenda.
Regular agenda. Okay, we'll place that on the regular agenda. Beth, do you have an update on Fish Street Road?
Yes, I do. I do want to show you that. I've got a copy, but it didn't print out very well on the printer, so I'm going to have to put in your north, south, east, and west. But we have had a lot done today, and I'm really happy about that. Can you hear me out there? Mm-hmm. Anyway, we have been working hard on this. We had the 2 engineers here, and we've had 2 aldermen, Alderman Welch and Alderman Downs were in. Alderman Horns helped with this, but we had to follow what the ICC and the Union Pacific Railroad have come up with. And so we're doing something even better since we own the property now. We're moving this entranceway over more to the east because we have to make sure that the cross bucks and everything on Fifth Street Road where it intercepts the Havana Spur railroad track, that it's far enough back and it's safe for drivers and everything. Yes, I will get that to everyone. Yes, I will email it to you. Other than that, we're moving along.
Good work on that. Thank you.
Any questions on that? Okay, announcements?
I do.
Beth?
Speaking of that, I received the other day from the engineer that showed up, $3,637.68 bill for their expertise on the engineering surface. And I forgot to put this on the agenda when I put it together today, for today's meeting. And I would like to ask respectfully if we could put this on the agenda for payment for next week.
Is this pertain to the discussions we had today, Beth?
Yes, yes. That's the engineer from the Union Pacific Railroad.
To move that entrance to the east?
Yes.
Ron, did you have a question? No.
Place on the agenda.
Regular agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Ron?
It's just announcements.
Yep.
I'll just turn it over to Walt if you want to talk about the landscape facility hours.
Over the past couple of years, we've come to an issue where our attendant sits at the landscape waste on these cold, dreary days, hours on end, and only end up with a handful of customers. So to try to alleviate that a little bit and help our budget a little, we're going to cut the hours down to 8 to 12. We're going to keep the 2 days. We'll still be open Wednesday and Saturday, but it will just be the hours from 8 to 12. And that is indefinite for right now. I anticipate changing that probably sometime in the middle of March.
Are there other announcements? Walt?
When you leave tonight, if you take a look at the courthouse square, all the light bulbs have been changed except for the clusters on the corners. So you can actually see the difference between the bulbs that we had and the bulbs that are currently that were replaced. So you can be able to really see the difference between them if you just take a look over at the courthouse square.
Tracy?
A week or two ago, we had a presentation for the mission group, and we did discuss that we would talk about a contribution. The contribution amount would come out in the 2021 budget, but they are in the process of securing those funds at this time. And so I wanted to ask the council if that's something that they wanted to at least make a commitment to that group on, and then the funds can still come out in our next year's budget.
Did you have a amount that you would like to throw out?
I have heard in talking with different aldermen amounts between 2,500 and 5,000.
Kevin?
What's in the hotel motel tax portion of our budget?
Well, we haven't done new budget yet, but you mean the reserve or the amount of the balance in that is a little over $52,000. But remember, with hotel motel tax specifically by law needs to be used to promote tourism, which I wouldn't think this would qualify.
I think that would be a stretch.
Yeah. But, we could, again, we haven't done the budget yet for next year. We could, add it to the contingency sub-fund would be one appropriate place to do it.
Does anyone have any further?
I don't know where, I mean, I was actually thinking 3,500.
Go in the middle, 3,500. Yeah.
35. That's in the middle, I mean, sort of.
Okay. So then can someone communicate that to Capsule or whoever's organizing that, and then we'll just work with the treasurer? Will you take care of it,
Yeah.
Ron? Okay. And then we'll work with the treasurer to get that in the budget for next year. I just want to make sure we didn't forget about that. That's all I've got.
Ron?
Thank you, Mayor. And in addition to, you're right, I think we do have to put it into this year's budget, but I don't think the money has to be released to them until probably spring of next year, 2021, so.
That would be in the next.
Yeah, it would be in this coming fiscal year, right?
Now, are we placing this on the agenda before we talk to them, or is it
I don't
something-
think we need to until we disperse the funds. This is just an informal commitment, I think.
Okay.
If you're, thank you, Mayor. There's general agreement that you're going to do this, putting it in the budget, and then you'd be voting on that budget or amending that budget if you didn't like the idea or wanted to change it. But
If the council would feel better, I certainly have no objections to a vote on it. It would just be ahead of the disbursement of the funds, ahead
Steve?
of the budget cycle.
So, this, I forget when he said it was gonna take place. In 21, but
June.
what,
Right.
June.
June of 21, so that would be,
So they get the money during the 2021 fiscal year.
but when does the work take place? What fiscal year?
June. Yeah.
No, June.
No, it'd be June.
Yeah, it'd be in the 21, 22.
It would be in the other,
The work would be.
it wouldn't be in this coming fiscal year, it'd be in the next fiscal year.
We're ahead of it because they're in that phase of getting commitments. And I think this is something that the city should be involved in.
Chief, and then Ron.
I think they would need the money ahead of time to purchase materials and stuff, so by giving it to them in the spring, which would be
This coming fiscal year.
yeah, then they would have the money ahead of time to buy the materials for June.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Ron.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, I don't know if, is it necessary for us to really take a formal vote on it? We can make a commitment and then remember this to be part of our budget. Yeah, and when we do that in March or April.
Another announcement? Beth?
Yes, I do. Mayor's been invited to attend, it says all village presidents. Well, you're city mayor. But anyway, there's a phone number you can call, but Mrs. Illinois American Pageant Super Bowl of 2020 is going to be held on June 7th in Elgin. And I don't know, we want to try to find somebody to sponsor. I don't know if the mayor'd like to go to that, but anyway, there's phone number if anyone is interested. They're looking for contestants. Yes, they really are, and it's very nice, very nice. If you're married and you'd like to be in this, then anyway, it's June 7th, 2020. So let me know, and
Will that be on our website, Beth, that way?
Chief, can you put that on?
They did ask that we disperse it at a meeting, so.
But they'd like the mayor to be
Yeah,
president.
Kevin.
Will it be carried on Comcast?
On the yoga channel. Back to the previous subject, I personally would feel comfortable in voting the $3,500. That way it's not just it's locked in stone. They know it's been voted on. It's done deal, and we can't just arbitrarily change our mind down the road because we just informally had a subject about it. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I mean, if I was the recipient, I would like a vote on it to know that it's going to happen.
I was thinking the same thing. I'd rather you vote, but
All right, let's vote. Regular agenda.
Beth, did you have a comment on that?
Yes, I just think it's a good idea, but I think we have to vote to put it on for the following budget. But yes, you can vote. Right, you have to put it in the budget, but vote to do that.
Do we have any further announcements?
Oh,
Yeah.
I do. One more, I'm sorry, I've kind of taken over tonight. Happy birthday, Abraham Lincoln, tomorrow. Alderman Keller, how old will he be?
200 plus.
200.
Yeah, he's dead and not too good anymore.
211.
211.
Make a motion, go into executive session under 2C collective bargaining, 2C2 collective bargaining, 2C6 sale or lease of real estate, and 2C11 pending proper litigation.
Second.
All right, Mr. Keller made the motion. Mr. Welch seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
7:51, we will go into executive session. There may be future city business. Thank you.